on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Van Builder HQ podcast number 3. Today, we're going to talk about conversion van windows. That's not the one I wanted to say. Camper van windows.
Camper van windows.
We're going to keep going. I got Nick here with me. Nick, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. Nick, walk us through your window shopping, window camper van journey. Tell us the story.
Yeah, it's good timing because right now I'm actually cutting the holes into the van for our #1 van here at Odyssey Custom Vans. And yeah, cutting holes in your van is it's a pretty sensitive subject because it's a big commitment. Other than buying the van, when you get ready to start cutting holes in your van, you want to make sure you're getting the right window. You want to figure out what's the process of even not just getting the right window. How do I do it? How do I make a template? How much do windows cost? So the first thing that I did, I'll just gotta go from my experience with searching for what window I wanted to put in a van. And so let me just go up here. Visuals help a whole lot. So let me share my screen. So van windows, I randomly picked this up, so don't think I'm just clicking on this. Can you see that on your screen, James? Actually, let me go to, let's go here. Let's go to Ford Transit van windows. I want to get a picture of a van so we can see. Oh, here, that's a great one. So if you guys can see this Ford Transit over here. So this is a medium roof. If you guys are checking out my channel or Van Builder HQ in general, the van that I'm working on is a high roof. So it's a little bit different than this. The mid roof and high roof actually use the same windows because of the sliding door over here. Going to the basics, typically when you buy a cargo van, the cargo van is not going to have any windows. Now, if you buy a passenger cargo van, it probably will have windows in it. And there's two different things. We can go down that rabbit hole here in a minute. But when you buy a cargo van, it's typically not going to have any windows in it. And when you buy it, you're going to have to put windows in it so that you can enjoy the time that you're in the van. You can see outside. You can actually get ventilation, that sort of thing. There we go. Okay, we're back. Okay, what was I talking about? So when you buy a cargo van, it's typically not going to have any windows in it. And you're going to want to put windows in it so that you can enjoy the time you're inside the van. It doesn't feel claustrophobic. You can see the views. And most importantly, you're able to ventilate the van. So most van windows that you buy need to have some type of way of opening up. The first thing you're going to do is decide if you're going to have full windows, so they look more like a factory window, or if you're going to have smaller windows like these bunk windows that they're called, these half sliders, or awning style windows. And the awning style windows look like this right here. So that's the first step. So once you've decided what window you need, now you want to find out, what company to get the windows from. And there's a couple different companies. Let's see if I can.
Oh, before we go there,
yeah.
Why did you choose that particular window? You mentioned the different reasons why you have a window. Why did you choose that one versus a full?
Yeah, so let's so back to the windows. So if you see this window on my screen, this is a half slider, they call it, like a half bunk slider. And somebody would choose this window because maybe they want a bigger opening. It has a screen on it so bugs don't get in. But there's two styles of these. So there's this one that slides left to right. And then there's the one that I chose right here. And this one it's called an awning style. So it doesn't slide left to right, it tilts out. The reason I chose this one is because if it's raining outside, you can actually keep this open and still maintain ventilation.
Makes sense. Okay. And now we're going to go into companies and pricing.
Yeah, so there's about 4 companies that most people will know about. So if you go on YouTube, the main 2 window companies are AM Auto and CR Lawrence. There's 2 other ones, Rec Pro makes windows. I don't think they actually make the windows. I think maybe it's a rebrand. I'm not sure about that. But Rec Pro. And then also there's a company out west. It's Van Windows Direct. So they're a real popular company because not only do they have not only do they sell AM Auto, they also sell Sierra Lawrence. So those are the four. So your AM Auto is going to be like this window over here, where let's just type it in. So if we go to AM Auto, if you see how the window kind of sinks into the van. So when it opens, it slides back into the van. People really like these windows because these are actually glued in with an adhesive as opposed to trim ring mounting. I have not had experience installing these, but people like them because they feel a little bit more secure about the install. We'll talk about that at the end of this video about window installation. But you actually use adhesive like you would be gluing in like your windshield. So say you broke your windshield. After you replace the windshield, they put this stuff called window weld. It's like a black adhesive, and then it glues your window in. It's designed to never fully cure, so it's flexible. So that's the same thing that they would use to install this. So some people like that. They feel more secure about leaks and stuff. There's another example. And then C.R. Lawrence uses this. They designed this style window. So this is an awning style. So these two bottom panes of glass, they actually tilt out. So let's type in CRL van window. See if I can get a picture of it tilting. There you go. So as you can see, see how this window, it cranks out. So there's a little knob on the inside. And as you twist it, this opens up. Depending on what van you have, I've heard that the amount that this window opens is different. I've heard it's less on a Transit. It's more on different vans. And that has to do with the curvature of the van. Like a ProMaster is going to have a nice straight side. Transits tend to curve. So if you have a curved surface and a flat glass, you can see there's some weird things that happen, and we're going to talk about that at the end of the video as well. That has to do with installation. But as we're going here, so CRL, where's the next thing we're going to talk about? Oh yeah, so those are the two differences between the CRL
Those
windows.
are the different types that are available for the most part.
Yeah, one slides and one tilts. One slides and then one tilts out like an awning style. And so I always favor the ones that tilt out like an awning style because when you're outside, when you're in the van and you're camping and it's warmer weather or it's actually raining out, you want to be able to have ventilation without getting rain in your van. And if you choose all windows and all the windows of your van and they're AMA windows, you're going to have that moisture or that the rain come into your van because the amount of ventilation.
The tilting one's like a rain guard.
Yeah, it's like a rain guard. And you might not think about this until you actually experience an exhaust fan in a van. But the vent fans that are in the roof, they move a lot of air. So it's almost like a vacuum cleaner. You can think if it's raining outside and you have an open window that slides instead of does an awning style, it's gonna pull some of that rain into the van. So that's why I try to, if I can get the windows, I get the awning style C.R. Lawrence windows. That's another thing I wanted to talk about is the current state of shipping, logistics, and even ordering these windows.
Yeah, maybe you can talk about cost of these different types of windows and then definitely talk about your story.
Yeah, I'll pull this up here in a second. I'll stop this so we can get big widescreen. So the current state of ordering van windows right now is pretty challenging. I actually ordered all the windows for the two vans that I'm building currently in September of last year. 2 weeks ago, I got half of my order, and then there's still two windows that I'm missing, and they were supposed to be here January 27th. Today is January 31st as we're making this video. And those other two windows will not be here until February 15th. You can imagine other van builders and companies that are pretty behind on, waiting on these windows to come in. Now, there's a case.
Are these made in America?
I have not got a definitive answer on that. I talked to a representative last year, and she said that yes, they are made in America, and because of companies manufacturing plants having to put their manpower capacity to about 50%. They're not allowed to have more than 50% of their people in a building at one given time. Different
kind of
rules.
like the meat processing plants and all that.
Yeah, so they say it's not a part issue, and it's not it's just a manpower issue. So that was from the first person I talked to at the company. When I went to pick up my first order and I asked them for an update on how are things going, that sort of thing, the lady I spoke to then said it was a supplier issue. So they probably got two things happening. They got the ships and the ports that are behind for whatever parts and stuff that they're bringing in, and then they have the manpower issue of not being able to go to full capacity. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's just something you have to live with right now. I have a little bit more leniency on this first van because it's a spec. It's not a customer build specifically, so my timeline can be flexible. However, the second van I've already pre-planned. I have all the windows ready for it, so when it's ready to go, get on the schedule and be built, I don't have to worry about, I've got all the windows I need for it, so we're good there. And for this video, I knew we were going to talk about windows, and I wanted to do a little price comparison. Now you can, if there's anybody on here that knows about like computer graphics cards, you can buy a graphics card, but it's 3 times the retail price. I found out that fan windows are the same way. I couldn't believe it. I actually looked it up the other day. And so let me share the screen again. So this company I really enjoy ordering from. The name of them is Panther RV Products. They got excellent customer service. This is where I got my Isotherm Cruise 130 fridge from. It's a really nice stainless steel fridge. So I looked on here, and they actually have a few stock of these windows.
Did you say you're getting one of these windows?
No, I've already got the windows that I need. I just got...
What are they called? The windows you got? What's the name of them?
So I got CR Lawrence. I got the AW1033 awning style windows.
Awning style.
Yep. I got 6 of those for inventory. I've got 2 of the slider doors and then 2 of the driver's side window T-vent. So I have my invoices right here, and I wanted to go through these numbers because it's very interesting. So for for CR Lawrence, let's go back to the big screen. So this is what I would do personally. If you're doing a personal van build, if there's any way that you can somehow get a customer number as if you're a business or something like that, something that where you can get more of like wholesale pricing type of thing. Obviously, since I'm a van builder, I submitted, got a customer number, and now I have a customer number that I order from through these businesses. And so depending on how many windows I order, I get a certain amount of discount off the windows. And there's another, it's not really a secret, but it takes a little bit of patience. If you decide to travel, this is CR Lawrence specifically, if you can travel to a CR Lawrence distributing center, and you can do a will call pickup. So what that means is you put your windows in order in the queue, you get your spot in line. As soon as the windows roll off the assembly line, they come straight to the manufacturer. They'll send you an email, and then you can go and then pick up your windows and pay for them as a will call pickup. So that's what I did. That way you actually don't have to have them tied up as a cost until you actually physically go to pick the window up and pay for it. And they keep your place in line until you pay for it, so you're not going to get your window taken out from under you. However, when you do that, they do not charge shipping or freight charges, so you can save quite a bit of money. So the 2 things you can do is buy in bulk if you can, do your whole order at once. That'll save you some money. And then number 2, you can drive to a location or distributor and then just physically pick it up in person as a will call order, and that's going to save you some money too. And I'm going to show you just on the shipping, just on the pricing, how much you're going to save. So if we go back here to share my screen, and I can't promise this is what the price is going to be. It's just more for us doing the video. But this is the CR Lawrence driver's side forward window. So FW293L. So my cost was $630.57. So if you needed a window now, they have one left or actually they're doing maximum purchase of one. They only have 2 in stock. So I paid $630.57, no shipping, no freight charges. I did pay tax. And if you bought it off of here, I don't know if they do free shipping, but that's $160 difference. If you bought the, let's see here. So here's the awning window. So my cost was $223. And so their cost is $310. So that's $86. So you're already over, you're getting to be almost over, $200 something just on those 2. And this is just availability cost. So the retail is obviously cheaper than $790, but this is the premium you have to pay right now to get this window. And that's not including shipping. And I don't know.
Is this the one you mentioned?
This is the one that is on the way to me. This is the one that's been back ordered since September. Now I could have bought it I can buy it right now from this company. The problem is it's the cost. And I don't know if we talked about this in the last video, but if you're not smart about your budget on the van, oh yeah, we joked around like everything is $400. This is $400, that's $400. So it's more like time for how much you want it or willing to save versus the time you need the van done by. All this stuff adds up. So if you wait and have these on back order, you're almost saving $86 to $160 per window that you need. So that's how much that I saved. Getting back to the point, if you want it now, it's going to be expensive. If you can wait. So if you're planning a van build, try to plan this out, especially with what we're going through right now with the logistics and stuff like that. But if you have the money, you can go right now and go to this website and you're able to.
So how do you, if you're building a van, how does it affect your schedule? Because I know with yours, you had windows are at the beginning, correct?
Yeah, you want to do windows as the first thing because, and if you watch some of my window installation videos, I talk about how you want to prep. You want to keep all the little metal shavings away from the inside of your van. You don't want it to get down nooks and crannies to where you can't take an air compressor and blow it out or vacuum it out. Because in a van, if it's not well ventilated, you're humans. When you breathe out, there's a lot of moisture and humidity in there. And that humidity has to go somewhere. Even if you buy hydrophobic materials that don't attract water, all the above, you seal all the wood, that moisture's still in the van if you don't exhaust it out, especially in the wintertime, where it can actually condense on the freezing sides of your van. That's why insulation and insulating the van properly is so important. Having those thermal bridges in there, all that stuff. And we'll talk about that later.
If you're doing a build, this is probably the first things you're going to order, so you want to do it early in your build, right? Before your build starts?
I'd say the first thing you're going to do, if you know what van you're going to get the windows. So the windows for these vans, let's see here, that was 6, 7, 8.
What was your cost on your current build?
14, 28. Let's just say, without shipping freight, let's say $3,000 is how much it'll cost for the windows for your van. Mm-hmm. So if you know that's the van you're going to get, go ahead and put those windows on order. If you do a will call order, I may be mistaken, but from what I talked to them, if you do will call order and you decide not to get the windows, it's okay. They just give them to somebody else. So you can have your place in line, wait for the windows to come in as you're doing your van build or shopping around, because just depending on, because they really don't know their shipping schedule. I've called for 5 updates and the date has drifted every single time. It's just the way things are. But windows, and like I said, I don't have a specific timeline for the spec build that I'm doing. But I mean, if this was customer build and timeline, you're not able to work on the van because you got it. Cutting holes puts that little fine metal everywhere, and you definitely don't want to be doing electrical.
That's a good segue. Let's go to that next.
Okay.
So we found the windows. We've looked at the different ones. Mm-hmm. You've told us how much they cost, how long it takes to receive them. Now that we have the windows you have a templating and installation process. How did you start your process? How did you come up with a kind of a template for each Windows, tools you used, different problems you had to solve? Maybe walk us through that story.
Perfect.
Take your time.
So I'm actually working on a step-by-step tutorial video right now that'll be out pretty soon. It's extremely detailed, so it's almost live footage of me doing the whole entire installation process on one window. And the first thing I talk about is templating and layout. So I'll have a video showing you how to make a template for your window.
Do we point to it? It's gonna be
right here. No, yeah, we can probably do that later. But the template's the most important because I've seen a lot of bad information. It's bad in that I know it can be better. A lot of people use the method of taking the trim ring that compresses the window in the van, and they basically hold it up and they trace the inside of it, which is not wrong because the window goes inside that ring. But sometimes they're off by almost 1/4 of an inch, and so there's a lot of movement, and the more that you're off, the less sealing surface area you have between the van van windows gasket and the sheet metal of the van. And then that really is your sealing surface. So you want to make sure that your template is very precise. So precise that if you cut it out, then you have to remove a little bit more material after you trace it. That's okay. But once you remove the material, it's gone.
And what was your process?
So my process, it started off...
You said the bad process. What's the good process?
I'm just like everyone else. I went on YouTube and I wanted to expose myself to as many ideas and just see what everyone did. And I actually have, let's see here if I can pull it up real quick. So I'll put this on this channel. I'll try to repurpose this playlist. This is just from me personally. But this is what I do. I go in and I create a playlist in YouTube. And then when I go down the rabbit hole of finding out all my inspiration or ideas, I put them in a playlist so that I can always go and reference back whatever the best practice that I thought was. So, for example, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've got 12 videos here. Most of them have one way of doing the van install. Some have another one, but you always find that one that kind of sticks out, and it's a clever way to do it. And so there was one guy that I saw. I don't know if I can actually... Let's see. I talk about it in the actual window install video. But what he talks about is the trim ring. Let me keep sharing this. All right, guys. We're going to get a little fancy here. So can you see my screen? Mm-hmm. All right. This is really behind the scenes. This is super behind the scenes.
This is a preview.
That's the only way that I can explain this. You guys are
actually, this video might come out before this podcast.
Yeah, it's possible. So let's go here. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. This video is an hour and a half long. It's extremely in detail. But when I watch YouTube videos, it's always a pretty time lapse, but nobody ever explains what's going on. So my take is to show you guys exactly what happens. Okay, here is the template. So this is basically what I did is I took a piece of cardboard from the window box that it came in, and I cut out a bigger section, and then I laid this on top of the window itself. And the part of the window that actually goes through the van, you want this to be as tight to that as possible. And then we'll put the link to how to create a template. I'm not going to go into detail. But you make a template out of cardboard. And then once you do that, you're able to, there's a couple pieces of the window. And let's see if I can do it. Let's see here. Okay. See this trim ring? You see it, Jamie?
It's a black trim ring if you can't see it.
So this trim ring right here, move my mouse on it. A lot of people just like to trace the inside. The problem with that is there's a gasket here. And that trim ring gives you more room than you need, so you have less ceiling area. So I go in detail talking about how you can get it really clean, nice tight fit for the install. Then moving forward, we talk about placement, and then we go through and we talk about your overall layout. So for example, during this process, and Jamie, let me know if I'm going on a tangent here from our question.
No, keep going.
But one thing I actually point out in the video is you want to make sure that your window is, let's go back before here. Okay. As you can see here, I'm explaining in this video, or you will see, that your video needs to be, aesthetically pleasing, I believe. You don't need to don't randomly put your window in the van without thinking about it. You need to have time, really think about what you're doing with your van window install, since you can only cut the hole out one time. So in the video, I talked about the importance of taking your time, finding out where you want to put the window. And I actually caught myself because in my initial design, I knew I was going to have the ladder up here and everything. But when you're doing windows first, guess what? You didn't get to the ladder yet. So I actually stopped the install of the window and installed the ladder on the driver's side of the van, so I would be able to have a reference point and able to lay out my window so it would be, visually pleasing on the outside. It wouldn't look like it was interrupted by the ladder. Number two, it wasn't obstructed by the ladder, as in when I open the window, it's not hitting the ladder and not opening fully. So that's what I talk about. And then let's see here. And then we go into actually laying out the template. Let me turn my camera back on. Talk about the template. We talk about where it is in reference to like your bed layout, ladders over here, that sort of thing. And then we move into, okay, template. All right, I think that's where you left off, Jamie, with your question. What other questions do you have besides where to lay out the window? Our template.
So you mentioned how you created a template. What tools were you using?
Okay, great question. So what I do at the beginning of the video is we go over here to our table and we talk about the tools that are used. So what I did is I just laid out the tools that I'm using. You make sure, once you watch the template video that I have, you'll learn how to make this template. These pieces of tape on here are just to make sure that it doesn't, flop around. It's nice and rigid. It kind of adds structure to the cardboard. That's all that's for. It's not for anything else. You'll need a jigsaw to cut it out. In the video, I talk about the blade you need to use, what thin, thick metal, T-shank, whatever, T-slot, all that stuff's in there. Markers, masking tape, what to use, tape measure. You need 2 drills, one with a small drill bit, one with a large drill bit that's large enough to make a hole for your jigsaw blade to go into the window. And the small one is for reference and locating holes. So for example, you're going to take this drill here and you're going to drill a hole on the line at the top and a line at the bottom. And that's so you can reference where your bars need to be cut out on the inside of the van. So once you have all this, your protective equipment, safety glasses, ear protection, metal cutting gloves, once you have all that, the reason you need to have the small drill bit to drill through the van is because it has to do with the reference holes. So as you can see here, let's get to it. There's 2 reference holes. There's one right here, and there's one right here. You see those holes? Do you see my mouse? 2 holes there. And then we're going to go to the inside.
Oh, sorry, I was talking.
No, you're okay.
I said it might be hard for them to see this. So we're going to have the video following or coming out in a few days.
Yeah,
so.
and I may do some overlay on this podcast.
Or it'll be out before this show's out.
Yeah. So here's your 2 reference holes. So one at the top, one at the bottom. And what the reason you need that is because let's see here. Okay, that's why I'm in the wrong menu. So let's get back to Stay with me, guys. Okay, so right here, there's two reference holes. And what this is showing me right here is how far I need to cut to get these support members out of the van. You need these support members moved out of the way to install your window. So I talk about that. That's important.
They're called support members?
Yeah, so they're what support. So for example, if you bought a passenger van that had a window already in it, these would already be removed by the factory. But when you buy a cargo van, these ribs, these vertical ribs, so you got the horizontal ribs for the roof of the ceiling of the van, and then you get these vertical ribs to support the sides of the van. It supports this sheet metal. What's really tricky about this is I'm cutting through the rib just enough that I'm not cutting through the sheet metal of the van, because it's the sheet metal of the van. The difference between the rib cutout and the hole of the window is two completely different things. Please watch the video so you don't screw that up, because you need room. Go ahead.
So what problems did you encounter doing this? Now that you have the tools and a template, what were any problems someone that's doing this might run into?
So the problem that I had was I'm a very visually driven person. I want everything to visual and everything to look really nice. I overcomplicated my design, because instead of just installing the window, just cutting the window out, and then let's go down here, putting the window in and putting the trim ring on right there. So most people would end their build right here. They would have the ring that compresses the window into the van, and later on they'll build a wooden frame around here. They'll put their panel in and make a nice little window box, or they'll have the flare space flares. They'll have something else. But since I'm doing the Adventure Wagon install, I have this second trim ring, and the second trim ring, it has to have way more thought put in it, because not only am I having clearance for this, I have to have clearance for this trim ring. But the end result, right there, you see this ring? So I have to have this ring, and then I have to have this in mind, because my interior panel.
So what was the problem?
The problem is I had to cut my window out first, and I had to install my window. Then I had to remove the window, install this trim ring, glue it in with adhesive, reinstall the window to compress this trim ring. And then once the glue dried, I had to take the trim ring out, and then I had to do my rust prevention, and then I had to take my window out again and put in my upholstered panel, because I needed to scribe out and trace out where this hole was going to be cut in the panel, the panel itself. And then I had to take the panel off again. Let's see if I can do this here. So I had to take the panel off. Okay, so you see the trim ring, and then the panel is traced. Panel is taken off. And then I had to take the panel. I had to cut the profile out. And then I had to reinstall the panel. And then I had to reinstall the panel and the window and the final trim ring. So I had to install the window 3 times.
So just a big learning curve.
Well, and you can't mess up on any part of this. You can't be off at all. Everything has to be perfect every single time you make a cut. You can't mess this up. These Adventure Wagon panels, if you mess one of them up, it's $1,000. And that's if you can. That's if you can get in line to get a panel due to their production. But when you get everything in there, see this right here? It looks excellent. So since I had to remove the window 3 times, I decided to go with a different method of bolting the window to the van. And a problem that a lot of people have with these C.R. Lawrence windows is that they use a screw to drill into the aluminum frame to mount the window. And if someone, let's go back to the video here. So if someone doesn't have an experience drilling into an aluminum trim ring, you might screw this little, you get these little screws, and it's meant to, it's almost like a self-tapping screw. It's meant to bite into the aluminum frame of the window. There's no pre-drilled holes in these windows when you get them. You are the one that is drilling a hole in the window for the first time to mount it. And some people, that it's not their fault, but they're not experienced with, you know, drilling into something that's not prefabricated. They'll drill a screw in, and it won't actually cut through the next layer in the aluminum trim ring, so they won't actually get, the frame won't be as tight as they should. It's not as tight as they think they should have it, and they're right. It's not. So they'll have to really bear down on it. They can break the screws off. They can make the heads of the screws can get worn out. And since I knew I was taking the window in and out, I said, this doesn't make sense to me. These should be tapped holes with a socket head cap screw. So if you guys don't know what that is, let's do this up real quick. So we go to socket head cap screw. So socket head cap screws look like this. So you're able to use an Allen wrench, and they actually have these little knurls in. So you can screw it in with your finger, and then you can take this and use an Allen wrench to screw it in. What's really nice about these types of screws is if you need to put the window in and then you need to take the window out and you tap threads into the aluminum frame, you can take the window out and then you can put it back in. And then when you know you're going to do a final install, you can put Loctite on the end of this screw, put it back into the window, and now it's secure. Those screws are not going to back out on you. That's what I did, and it made everything really nice. I was able to go through the whole entire window right here, and I was able to just ever so slightly just go around and just tighten all the way in a circle. And as I was doing that, the ring, this trim ring was seating really nice to the window, and it was sealing really well, and nothing was forced. And if something got forced and pinched, which this is a problem I ran into, these radiuses right here, they're not perfect. So the radius of this window and the radius of this compression ring, I call it, they're not the same. They're off just a little bit, but it's enough to where if you've never done this before and you're a DIYer, you'll clamp down here, but then on the other side of the window.
Are you trying to share your screen?
Can you not see it?
Nope.
Oh. Here we go. Okay, see that now, guys?
Yeah, you might want to go back a minute or two.
So what would happen is I did the screws, and I can go through, and I can just tighten them down and just do one by one and slowly get that seated properly. I'm not forcing anything. I just do it nice and easy. The problem I see some people have is these radiuses might not be completely perfect, since this outer ring that they provide you it's bent after the fact. It's not actually a perfect match to this interior window. So if you drill this side down and then you go to the other side over, you might be pinching on this side and you're not able to get a good seal on the outside. And that's where people complain that these windows leak, is these four corners, you're not actually able to get them to seal towards the side of the van as effectively as you should. So what I did is, long story short, you can watch in the video, I explain it. With the socket head cap screws being used to clamp this window down, you have more time to make sure you get a nice, good compression onto this window. And I know that's a ton of information. That's why that window install takes so long to explain. Once you do the first window, you're going to fly through the other windows. That first learning curve that you have for DIYers is going to be pretty steep, because you're intimidated by cutting a hole in your van that you have to get right the first time, and you don't want to mess up a window that took you a couple weeks.
Unless you like watering.
A couple weeks or months to get, and you don't want to break the window and have to reorder one. So there's a lot of stress involved, but I go through and just super detail and walk you through the whole thing. Yeah, that was a long way to answer that question, but yeah, let's let's go to some other questions. What do you got?
That was pretty much it. If we keep going or essentially play the video you made, I would say we wrap it up here and tell everyone to watch the video. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I'll just say these final things, and you can close it out. So there's 2 specific videos that are coming out. One is the template video, so it's just talking about how to make a template. And then the second video
for your camper van window install.
For your camper van window install. The second video is that whole thing that I just showed you some parts of. Tools you need, how to locate the window on your van, how to plan that out on where you want the window to the layout of where you want it. And then we go through actual cutting it out, things to look out for, be careful for, and then ending it with how to make that match up with your interior install. Because the window is one thing, but making sure the window in your interior kind of play well when you get to that point. That's the final part of the video. That was a lot of stuff in this podcast, but I hope that helped.
I'm ready to watch the video. I know you're still editing it, but I want to see it. But yeah, that's a wrap for today, doing camper van windows, and Nick will show in more depth how to install it, the challenges he had, the tools. I know we mentioned some in this episode, but the video goes way more in depth, and I recommend everyone watch it. But that's it for Van Builder HQ podcast number 3. This is number 3. I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
We won't keep count forever. But yeah, that's the show. We'll see you in the next one.
All right. See you guys.